this time, we'll have a roll call.
Director Hollebush,
Present.
Director Brewer,
Here.
Director Jewell,
Here.
Director Hart,
Here.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Here.
Director Harris,
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. This time, we'll stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Let's bow your heads. Gracious Father, thank you for this day and all the blessings that you've given us, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to serve our citizens. Be with us as we conduct the business of the city tonight. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a couple of housekeeping things to discuss before we get started with our meeting tonight. One, if you have your cell phone with you, we'd appreciate if you would silence your cell phone. If you wish to address the board tonight during citizens communication time, it's beneficial for us if you would fill out a citizens communication card on the ledge, so we would have a record and your contact information. The next thing is we have quite a few items on our agenda tonight. I do want to say that I've been informed by the city attorney that our item number 4 on the public hearing concerning a resolution of support for request to be made for the Arkansas Highway Department asking the 71 viaduct to be named the Reverend Londell Williams Overpass will be tabled tonight. It's our understanding that we'll be receiving another request to consider an additional name for the naming of that viaduct. That will be tabled, and that presentation will not be presented tonight. There will be a brief executive session at the conclusion of the meeting tonight to consider the hiring of a city manager and the hiring of a city attorney for an update on that. So we'll have a brief executive session at the conclusion of the meeting. So at this time, we'll move right on into our citizens communication time. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board tonight during citizens communication time? Anyone wish to address the board? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move right on into our presentations. Presentation first tonight will be our Employee Service Awards. We have 2 employees to recognize tonight. One is Mr. Romeo Cross, TAPD, 20 years. Our next is Ms. Cheryl Griffin. I don't know if she's here or not. Ms. Cheryl Griffin, 25 years with TWU. Y'all give her a round of applause. Next, we have a presentation of the proposed municipal auditorium HVAC system by our city manager, Jay Ellen.
Mayor, board directors, this is a report that I asked Tyler to put together for us. We've talked about these buildings here, how important they are to our community. This report came back to us from this EMA group of engineers. In this report, they outlined a couple of things for us. They give us some options for how to deal with our municipal auditorium, which is what this is primarily about. There's 3 primary options there to put new air conditioning and heating systems in these, back in the auditorium. If you'll remember, that was one of the goals that I had on my work list for you. Again, this is a information item only. It's kind of setting out for you what that process might look like, and you will have the opportunity to deal with that in future budget presentations as well. So as you move forward, it'll be $740,000 plus, depending on which one of those items you choose. Put the auditorium back in use in the community for small venues, as well as for college classes or other small gatherings for the community as well. That was the intent, was to put this facility, keep this facility up and put it back in use in the community as well. you can see there's the diagram of where those units would go up on the roof, et cetera, and how they would be put in place to service that area for air conditioning heating. Again, just presentation as an information item for you tonight.
Is there any comments or questions for the city manager? If not, we'll move into our agenda. I do want to say, make one comment. We did have a workshop today prior to the board meeting as it pertains to the redistricting. There are still a number of items to be worked out in redistricting amongst the board. There's not a proposal yet to be presented to the board to vote on in our redistricting. We worked with the consultant tonight on resolving some of the issues that individual board members have, but there's still not anything for us to discuss or bring before the board for a vote at this time concerning our redistricting. So next, we'll move into our first public hearing of the night. Item number 3 is a public hearing concerning an ordinance to rename a section of a right-of-way that was cut off by Interstate 49 from Preston Street to McGee Drive. There will be no action taken on this at tonight's meeting. This is only a presentation. Ms. Beck.
Good evening, Mayor, Directors. Looking at the map here, you can see Interstate 49 on the west side. And before it was constructed, Preston Street, which it started over actually at the far end of almost to Broad Street if you cut through. I'm on the wall there. But it came clear across to what later became McGee Road, McGee Drive. So it went to the Planning Commission, and they reviewed the petition. The petition had went through the process of the city manager's office to consider renaming and whether that was a viable option. There's just 2 residences and 1 church that are currently addressed off this segment of McGee. Some of the comments in favor of it was, this is Cooper Tire Road right here, is that if you're coming down Cooper Tire Road and you're looking for McGee, it doesn't extend through to Cooper Tire Road. It just ends at this bend. So what this renaming would do would be to change that to McGee Drive so it would be consistent. It would make delivery of mail and other products a little bit easier for people that were not familiar with the area. And it wouldn't impact, it would have very low impact for a street renaming, which we typically discourage. I did make an error in the memo. Adger Smith, who was one of the petitioners for this, he did not vote on this in the Planning Commission. So that should be corrected, but it had a majority vote of the quorum. It had 4 full votes, and so I just wanted to clarify that for the record. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So it's my understanding that this only addresses 2 residences.
Yes, sir.
So they would be the ones that would be changing their addresses to McGee Drive.
Yes.
And so my other question is because I'm not familiar with this, so I'm just asking, what all processes are in place when the city votes to do that and changes that? We notify the Postal Service, we've got 911 issues, they've got issues to do change of addresses, the whole 9 yards. What is the process?
Yes. Well, before this, or at the time that this came up, we mailed out letters to every property owner that was adjacent to this property. So they've all been notified by the city.
They didn't have any objections to it, but these 2 people are physically changing their address.
Right.
They've had for a number of years. They've got to change their address to whatever number we would assign them on McGee.
Yes, they would keep the same number, but it would change from McGee to Preston Street. And they may not receive their mail by delivery because we had no objections. We had 51% of the 3 that it would impact to sign the petition. One of them was the church, which is, used to be that Square Dance Club. But there's a church that meets there now. This is the fire station. They're actually addressed off Cooper Tire Road. And this property, I believe, is occupied by Donnie Seeley's daughter. I don't know if they're going to purchase it or if it's, because this was recently developed as a subdivision, I think 17-lot subdivision. It doesn't show up on the map yet. So this is kind of like a new address, and this property owner never responded. They may not use that as their mailing address.
So Mayor, you're saying those 2 that are having to change their address didn't object?
Correct. Well, we had, as far as I haven't spoken with them, but they were notified, and I believe they were contacted by Director
I will say
Holovich.
that, that is in Ward 3, and back in November, several people approached me about changing that to McGee. And so I was the petitioner, and I went out and talked to the people in the neighborhood. There's some addresses that touch that if the utilities were on, they would have an address on Preston. The one owner he didn't like the idea of it being changed, but he was accepting of it. He didn't come to the planning meeting to voice any concern, but when I asked him to sign the petition, he declined to do so. But we did get, I actually got more signatures than was necessary, but they weren't directly affected. So the representative from the church and then the Seeley property on the corner were both in support of it. And the surrounding neighbors that would be affected by that were also supportive of it.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Beck? And this was just a public hearing tonight. We'll close the public hearing. It's my understanding that this will move to our March 20th agenda for approval. So item number 4 on the public hearing, it will be tabled to a later date. We'll move right on into our consent agenda. Tonight we have 5, 6, 7, and 8 on the consent agenda. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes of our meeting on February the 21st. Item number 6 is to adopt a resolution approving the reimbursement of $14,000 to the Texas County Regional Airport from the American Rescue Act funds. Item number 7 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one M2-106 Freightliner conventional cab vehicle. And item number 8 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Plummer Associates to develop a master plan of a water distribution system serving the cities of Texarkana, Arkansas, and Texarkana, Texas.
Move for adoption.
Second.
So a motion and a second to move for adoption of the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. So we'll move right along into our regular agenda. Item number 9 tonight is to adopt a resolution accepting the 2022 Public Facilities Board Annual Report. Jay?
Mayor and board members, the Public Facilities Board met to meet our annual reporting back to you. This is concerning our bonds that have been issued and the payments for those bonds, and that information is attached for you. And so our action for the year is complete.
Does anybody have any questions for Jay concerning our Public Facilities Board report? If not, I would have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas the 2022 Public Facilities Board Annual Report has been prepared, and whereas the report has been reviewed by the Board of Directors, and whereas the city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, the 2022 Public Facilities Board Annual Report is accepted, passed, and approved this 6th day of March 2023.
So the city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion.
To adopt.
Second.
So the motion and second to adopt, is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. The resolution passes. Moving right along to item number 10, which is to adopt an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Springbrook Software for the purchase of financial software. Trish?
Good evening. TW is needing to replace our current financial software with Springbrook. The expenditure is currently budgeted in our tech fund in the amount of $225,000. The final quote that we received came in just over $150,000.
And what all does this do, Trish, is this billing, is this from A to Z for the water company, or what?
It's strictly
Just
for our-
see where it does.
It's strictly for our financials. It's going to handle payroll, our inventory control, accounts payable. It'll have some self-service function for the employees as far as HR, check stubs and that kind of thing, as far as handling our general ledger as well, and capital project management.
Anybody have any questions for Trish? If not, I remind the board, this is an ordinance to pass tonight. It would need to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
Motion read, first reading, abbreviated.
Second.
So the motion is second to have the ordinance read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract to purchase new financial software for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading?
Second reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract to purchase new financial software for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to have it read on its third reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract to purchase new financial software for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call it?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. A emergency clause has been requested. What would be the desire of the board to attach? an
Motion to attach.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to attach emergency clause. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabash,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, an emergency clause is attached. Okay? Moving right along to item number 11, which is to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 24 subdivisions of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances to delete ordinance number 227 permanently and set limits on road guarantee renewals. Ms. May.
Yes, sir. We, the Planning Commission, that is, I'm here to represent this on their behalf. They were looking at Chapter 24, the subdivision ordinance, and something had come up about, well, actually, the city manager had some ideas about new subdivisions and lighting and trees and so on and so forth. So they were diligently going through that, and it came to our attention that there had been an ordinance that was passed in 2005, and it didn't seem as if that was in force, and it wasn't in the Municode. So we went back and investigated and found that it had been suspended for 6 months in the spring of 2006. So at that time, they reviewed that ordinance, Ordinance 227, L227, and saw some of the issues that caused the suspension. And it was discussed and looked at for several months at regular workshops and 2 special workshops. And the outcome of it was that they were supporting removing that ordinance on a permanent basis, so that wasn't just floating out there somewhere. So it's kind of a housekeeping thing in a sense, because it hasn't really been enforced. And the other thing was putting a limit on renewals for street construction. When a final plat is filed, all the infrastructure needs to be completed, or the contractor, the developer needs to put up a bond. And it seemed like at times these bonds were renewed over a period of years, and that could cause, well, with the economy and inflation, actually the terms of that bond could be impacted over a long period of time. So it was recommended, after they discussed that the board would consider limiting the renewals on those bonds,
To 1 year.
guarantees.
To 1 year.
Yes, to one year, up to 1 year after the original contract. So that still allows, because things happen, shortages in supplies and that type of thing.
So I was a little bit confused when I understand what we're doing. But we actually have an ordinance, L227, that's suspended, okay? And that was suspended by 255,
Yes, sir.
okay? But 255 doesn't have anything to do with the extension of the bond? We're dealing with 2 different things, or I'm trying to figure out how we tied them 2 together.
Well, they're both in the subdivision chapter, and they're one is just kind of, they are 2 different things, but they're both impacting subdivision regulations.
Deleting 227 and make an amendment to 255 takes care of the 1 year extension of the bond.
Well, like you said, they're actually 2 different things.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. We're voting to, we're actually just voting to get rid of 227 because we have 255. But we're changing, where are we changing just in the code on the, or what ordinance are we changing to extend the bond by 1 year? I support that, I just want to make sure we're doing right, but when I kept looking at that, it was confusing to me as to, I want to make sure that I understand it for one, but 2, that we get it done the right way.
Correct. And that regulation about the bonds, I believe, came in effect when our comprehensive plan was established in 1988.
Okay, but they don't have anything, that doesn't have anything to do with 255.
No, sir.
All right, so this would be a question for Josh. So we're actually addressing 255 here. We're abolishing 227 because 255 overrode it.
Yes.
Well,
Suspended it by that, but we're actually taking care of another action that deals with subdivisions and bonds.
my understanding is 255 suspended 227 for a period of 6 months. And at that point, when they enacted 255, it was to workshop for 6 months, and then here we are today, nothing ever happened. And so,
But 255 don't have anything to do with
Right.
the extension of the bond. We're doing 2 different things in one ordinance here.
right, and
Seems to me they would be better suited to be taken
Separate.
care of separate. mean, that's my opinion, but I'm just one person.
Well, and we talked about that.
Yes, sir.
And Heather, we talked about that, And it's, so it would be cleaner to do it as two, but I guess the reason they're one is because they both affect subdivisions. But if it's,
Always table it.
Well, let me
This is
ask,
for, for discussion of the board. I mean, I'm just bringing that up as
Right.
we're doing two different things that don't, we're doing one particular thing that we need to do, in my opinion, and that's renew the extension of those bonds. That's the most important thing in here. Ordinances overriding ordinances and getting rid of one is a cleaner way to.
That's not in effect anyway.
It's not gonna affect it anyway.
we're in the ordinance that we're discussing. Does it address the issue about the bonds? I don't read anything in there where it says anything
It's in
about
the
the bonds.
subchapter of 24 of subdivisions. It doesn't have anything to
Yes.
do with 255.
Well,
Right.
I'm in agreement with
The
it.
entire, chapter 24 is subdivisions, but you're correct, it wasn't contained in either of these ordinances. It would just seem like, the removal of 227, that, I mean, it's just kind of like a ghost out there. I mean,
Could you
it's not-
just a question, could we get rid of 227 by way of resolution?
I don't think so.
So we'd have to do an ordinance to
Yes.
just get rid of it.
To delete 227,
And then what would the technical procedure be to change the chapter 24 as it deals with the reissuing of the bond?
That has to be ordinance also. Any change in the zoning chapter has to go through the planning
Right.
commission as an ordinance.
My opinion, just for cleaner purposes, because this has a big effect in the end. The bonds have a big effect on the end, just as she said. That could be catastrophic for the way that, especially in today's time with prices and everything else, we could have several jobs that end up being under bonded if we're not looking after that and required. So that to me is an important change. At some point in time, I would like to see them brought separately and voted on and clean it up so that we know for a fact that we are going to require that. That's just my opinion. It's on the agenda for the board to discuss.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see two different ordinances.
Would you like to break this out and vote on one or the other of them tonight? Of
I don't
those?
know that we can. They're all included in the same
Can't do
ordinance. I
that?
don't think you can amend it.
No.
I was thinking about that a while ago, but the way it's written, I don't see a way to amend it. We could just bring them back on the May 20th meeting and just separate them and clean it up, and that's what I would prefer to do. And if that's the board's consent, we could just have a motion to table it for clarification and the approval to bring it forth in two different ordinances.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second.
If you make it, it's, If you made
I'll make
I
a
was
So we
motion.
have a motion and a second to table this request. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Harris.
yes.
Brown.
Yes. Moving on to item number 12 is to adopt an ordinance to rezone a tract of land located at 4000 East 9th Street from R2 Single Family Residential to C3 Open Display Commercial Zone in order to build a retail business. Ms. Beck.
Okay, maybe we'll get this one right. This is East 9th Street, Highway 82, and it's in the area we just talked about. This was the street renaming down here, Cooper Tire Road, and there's an existing dollar store at 4215, I think it is, or 4200. And the property in question, this crosshatch property, was purchased by the developers of the dollar store, and they want to build a new dollar store at this location. And in order to do so, they have to have a commercial zone. And because there's a C3 commercial on the north side and east side to match up. They thought it would be a preferable zone to request the C3, open display commercial. There was a lot of discussion at the Planning Commission about the floodplain, and Tyler couldn't be here tonight, but he emailed me, and he's worked with the engineers on this project. He's seen their site plan and plans and their calculations for runoff and drainage and so on and so forth. And he assures you that this property is not going to impact flooding in the surrounding areas as designed. Other than that, we have the infrastructure in place in East 9th Street, and we have a representative here, Chris Logan, if you have any questions.
Mr. Beck, where, you probably pointed it out, but where is the existing dollar store? Could you point that out to me?
Yes, it's right here.
Right there?
So they want,
And the proposal is about where the 4,000 is?
yes, right there.
Okay. And what's going to become of the old dollar store? Anybody know? Well, I guess that'll be a question.
Dollar General approached us, they're wanting to increase the square footage of that store and introduce the grocery concept to that area of the community right there. They were unable to enlarge the footprint of the existing store that was leased there, and their lease term has expired with that landlord.
Right.
And they approached us about building their new grocery concept there, and we're under contract to purchase that property to do that.
What, was any opposition much at the Planning Zoning Commission?
There were concerns voiced by, let's see, Travis Phoenix. I think his home is here. He was concerned about anything that would cause a increase in overflow when we had heavy rain. And I believe there was someone else further downstream that had contacted us about it. But they were at the meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, and they just wanted assurance that that would not occur.
Any other questions for Ms. Beck? Okay, thank you. I remind the board, this is an ordinance. To pass tonight, it would need to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the
Well,
board?
I have one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
I pose this to the developer. What size building is it in comparison to what's there? Is it half again the size, third the size, or?
The current building, to my understanding, and I don't have any plans from the previous construction of that building, it's 8,150.
The current building?
Currently, and we're increasing it to 12,480 square feet.
You're going to offer more product and stuff,
Yes, sir.
right? Versus the new concept?
More product, preferably pushing the produce, groceries, a neighborhood market is how they brand that store.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
So if not, I would entertain a motion to what would be the desire to have it read on its first reading tonight.
First reading, abbreviated form.
So a motion and a second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollibush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollibush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, and the ordinance is adopted. We'll move right into our board commentary. Is there anyone of the board that wish to address the board or the community tonight on board commentary?
I guess I got a question.
Okay?
When is they gonna get some asphalt for potholes?
Getting it every day.
Huh?
We're getting it every day.
Okay.
We're putting it out every day that the sun's shining, I promise you.
Really, I gave you a big 2-page list of potholes and more, so that's the reason. I'm asking when they expect to get,
He had 4 pages
Feet.
or more than one. I got 6 pages.
You got a book.
and
You got
then
8
my
now?
other question
Yeah.
is,
Very.
is the street sweeping working?
Yes, sir, it is running. We've suspended it as well right now, so all of our efforts are going to drainage and potholes right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so ain't no use me asking about the size of the curb either, huh? Need to be clean. Since you're doing potholes and. well-
Potholes and drainage.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other board member?
I've got something. So last Thursday night, we had a community meeting at the Iron Mountain Center, and we hosted Tri-State, and they were able to come out and address some concerns that some of the citizens had. It was a very good meeting. We had an opportunity for citizens to ask questions and take care of some misinformation that was out there and just really make sure that we're on the same page. And Tri-State is going to make some efforts to work better with the community. They have bent over backwards to make efforts to cut down on the noise. They have worked with the highway department to start cleaning up 82 or 9th Street. And so they're going to continue to make efforts. They're investing money into our community as well. So I just want to say it was a very productive meeting, and I was glad to see so many people from Ward 3 come out and participate in the conversation.
Any other board member? If not, we go to city manager's report.
Mayor and board members, I've got a couple items for you. I'm continuing to work on my projects list that I provide to you every week, so there are a number of things on that list. If you have any items that you would like to give me some more input on. I'm also doing a series of exit interviews with y'all as well with the staff folks, so we're just talking about things that are on our list that we've probably talked about, but again, just kind of refreshing those, and I'm making those, and we'll keep those for your next manager as well. With that, I'm also working on a letter in relationship to our health insurance. Y'all are aware that the last couple of years with our municipal health insurance, our premiums have changed. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to pay those increases on the city side. This notice that I'm working on kind of helps give our employees a notice that in future years, they may have to contribute to that as well. And it gives them a couple of opportunities to step up and do their part. I'm reminding them about the difference between emergency and urgent care facilities. And I'm also making sure that they understand generic drugs versus primary drug things as well. So all of that will go in my memo to them. We're also in the process of establishing a wellness clinic for our employees as well. So, and they'll make a time and they'll come get their blood pressure checked and their finger pricked and get a report from our health provider as well, which is just part of trying to improve our service to our employees and to make them healthier as well, too. Last item I have for you is my last day in the office will be the 21st of March. And I'll be off on vacation through the end of the month. So, and it's been my pleasure to work with all of you, and I look forward to that coming about.
I thought you'd been on permanent vacation since you've been there.
I want to know who approved that vacation.
Any other discussion? Our next board meeting will be March the 20th, Monday, March the 20th. At this time, if we could excuse all guests, we will go into a brief executive session to discuss our opening for city manager and city attorney.